All right. So I know that the topic of this video might be a little controversial, but I think it's important that we talk about it, especially in a time like now where moving abroad is quite a popular, I hate to say trend, but essentially it is becoming a trend, or like there's a massive wave of people who look at moving abroad as the answer to the situation that is happening right now in America. And as someone who has left the United States and lived abroad for years, as someone who is a digital nomad coach and helps women to make the move abroad, I completely get it and understand why people would look to moving abroad as the answer. But I think it's also important to talk about what we don't hear as often, which is the fact that living abroad really isn't for everyone. I do think it takes a certain type of mentality, a certain type of personality. Um, yeah, and it's not to say that just because someone maybe doesn't have that, doesn't fit into that mold right now, that they couldn't, become someone who could live abroad, but you really have to be intentional about it. And so in this video today, I just wanted to share three topics that came to my mind that I think are important to know before deciding to make the move abroad, to really determine if it would be a good fit, if it would be something that you would enjoy. Because I'm all for travel. I'm all for seeing this world, exploring this world. But there are people who like to vacation, who still like to travel and explore, but they like coming back to their home, no matter how broken or chaotic it might be. And then there are people who really do love the, I don't want to say like thrill or chase because it doesn't always feel that way, but they like the possibility of going to new places and having to adopt and adapt to new cultures and just prefer experiences over comfortability, I think is really what can make the difference. But the first idea, concept, topic that I wanted to talk about or address, I think when you're moving abroad, if you look at leaving the States and living in another country as some sort of magical fix, living abroad may not be for you. And I say this because whether it's to fix a financial situation, whether it's to fix like health problems, healthy habits, whether it's to fix like emotion, like how you feel emotionally, it's just not a, moving abroad is not a quick fix. If anything, it probably like highlights any areas, any problem areas within those things even more, right? So if you're in the States and you're struggling financially, moving abroad to a place that has a lower cost of living doesn't automatically guarantee that it's going to fix your financial situation. Um, Especially if the root cause of the financial issue or the burden, the problem that you have, maybe it's not just the fact that America is expensive. It could have some other sort of root or other like it could be stemming from some other place besides just the fact that you're in America. So like just some examples would be maybe money management or um discipline when it comes to like spending habits or um what's another one? I had it and I lost my train of thought. um yeah, money management, being disciplined with your money. Oh, and then just like your relationship with money when it comes to earning more money. I think that was a big one for me. That was definitely a big one for me. being able to like have a good relationship with money where you're not in a space where you're pushing it away. And I know that might sound crazy to say, especially I know like the situation in America is ridiculous. I was just there earlier or the end of last year and earlier this year. So I know how expensive things are. But these are things that could be contributing to financial problems that just because you change your address or your country code, they don't automatically get fixed. Same thing with like health. If you know that if you want to like lose weight, a lot of people do lose weight when they leave the States because the food, I mean, the food in America, it's known that like the chemicals and the things that are put in them are not good for us. And it's easy to gain weight in the States. But when you move abroad, you probably will lose a few pounds just off of the fact that you're eating a different diet. But if you have some of those same eating habits, or if you have some of the same habits that you've had that um, don't have you moving your body and, you know, like being active on a consistent basis, it's only a matter of time before you're dealing with that same problem just in a different location. Um, so I say all that to say the first one being wherever you go, there you are. That is like a common phrase that I'm sure we've all heard before. But moving abroad is not just like a quick fix. So I think if that's how you view leaving the States and living somewhere else as, it's important to really like sit and think about if it would be the right move for you right now. Um, and if not, like I said, that's okay. These just because it's not a fit for you now doesn't mean that it's not something that you could do later in life or in another season. It's just good to have that awareness before packing up all your stuff and moving your whole life to another country and having to figure this out the hard way. So the second reason, or I don't know if these are reasons, but the second thing to consider before making the move abroad is the fact that when you move abroad, it can be isolating. And I think if you're someone who struggles with being alone or finds it hard or difficult, you find it difficult to be intentional about making community and finding friends. Moving abroad can be it can be challenging, and it can weigh on you heavy enough to even make you want to move back, right? Because it's no fun being alone if you don't know how to be one alone with yourself. And even if you do are comfortable with being alone by yourself, like if you're doing that for months and months on end, like we're humans, we're designed to need community. Like we need one another. So if you know, struggle with being able to find people, to connect with people, to put in that intentional effort to do that, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. And I think I've seen some people actually move back to the States because, like I said, we need community, we need family, we need friends. Um, so if that is something that you struggle with, I would definitely, I think starting with where you are is the first step. So if you know that being alone or finding friends is hard for you, um, I say tap into your community now. Like challenge yourself to start reaching out to people on a daily and weekly basis. Like we all have our phones, but somehow we're like more disconnected than ever. So I think a good challenge would be instead of spending time, you know, scrolling on social media, maybe taking 5 or 10 minutes out of your day to send a text message to someone that you haven't spoken to in a while, or um, yeah, sending someone like a thoughtful email, or like picking up the phone and actually calling someone, FaceTiming someone. Like these are the intentional acts that you will, or the intentional steps that you'd have to take when you live abroad to keep connection with the community that you have back home. But it also like flexes that muscle that you're going to need in order to really connect with people abroad, people who are going to be strangers at first until you take that extra step to really connect with them. So that's another thing to keep in mind, the second thing. And the third thing to think about before moving abroad is to know that moving abroad is not escapism. Um, Yeah. I mean, I think that like sums it up in itself, but I think it's important to know that as horrific as the situation is in the United States right now, there's no perfect place on this earth. Anywhere that you go, you're gonna run into people who are inherent. I don't want to say inherently evil. That because I don't know if it. I don't know if we can tell if we can trump if we can trump what Trump is. I don't know if there's any topping what Trump is. I mean, there's been past political leaders who are probably just as like evil or close as evil as what he is. But what I was trying to say is that there are evil people all over this world, unfortunately. There are racist people. You will find them everywhere. And so leaving the States doesn't automatically equate to being able to avoid dealing with people like that or broken systems or really crappy politics. Like this is it's the world that we live in. We are all flawed humans, some a little bit more than others. And yeah, that's just a part of life that we have to deal with. So I think it's good to recognize this. And when I like, not just because I know it's probably something that if you've watched a lot of moving abroad videos or like even if you've traveled, like you've heard, like it's not a means of escape. But I think when thinking about living somewhere like full time, it's really important to take in what that means and even to talk to people who look like you. Can't stress that enough. But people who look like you that live in that destination. And I'm talking more than just like 3 to 6 months, like who have lived there and have seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. The stuff that only shows up after, you've been there for a few years. Because yeah, even countries can present, their best self at first when you're first there, when you're in those first couple of months and you still have on those rose colored glasses, it's really easy to get sucked in. But I think just having a full understanding of what you're getting into is always just the best way to go about it. And the best way to prepare yourself for what you could be getting into. So yeah, those are the three things that I think are really important to consider before moving abroad. And if those are things that, you're dealing with, or I don't want to say, I don't know how to phrase it, but if those are three things that you're like, yeah, no, that's something I'm still like working through, or definitely something like that wouldn't, I know that hearing that it doesn't align with me with moving abroad. Just it's things to consider. It's things to consider before packing up your life and going to a whole nother country because that's a big life change. So yeah, that concludes my little rant for today. This video is actually one of several that I plan on doing. I am challenging myself to show up on my channel for the next 30 days. Even saying that out loud has me like, I saw Glo Atanmo doing this challenge. She's a content creator that I really do admire. And so she's been challenging herself to show up, I think, for like the last like 90 days and counting, to just be on her channel and sharing her thoughts and ideas. And of course, like her life as she travels abroad. And so I'm taking a page out of her book and challenging myself to do the same. Not only because, it helps on the channel, but really because like I, as an introvert, still struggle to show up and I feel like my full authentic self on camera. Don't ask me why, because I feel like in person, like I have no problem talking to people. And as an introvert, like YouTube is such a great space to really create content because it really is just like your own little world. But for some reason, for me, it can be so challenging to really like sit and get on camera and talk through my thoughts out loud. So this is me showing up, even though it's highly uncomfortable for me sometimes. Yeah, this is a challenge I'm going to take on. You all can hold me accountable. And if you're not already, subscribe, go ahead and subscribe so you can see me on this next 30-day journey. and posting videos and sharing a bit, not only about the life abroad, but also about my time here in Bolivia, because that is where I currently am now. So I'll be sharing a bit about my travels and where I am as well. So yeah, that's all I have. If you are someone who is interested in living abroad and looking for ways to sustain your income while living from anywhere in the world, I invite you to come to join my free Facebook group called Women Digital Nomads. You can find the link down in the description box below. So, yeah, you can come over there, join us, connect with me, and be able to get some free resources to help you out on your journey. And that's all that I have today. I will see you guys tomorrow.